Hello viewers, I am Professor Sharanjeet, working at the Rajiv Gandhi National University of Law, Punjab. In today's lecture, we shall discuss the modern approaches to prisonization. A person in prison does not become a non-person and is entitled to all human rights within the limitations of imprisonment. It is important to note that from the primitive concepts of gaols or penitentiaries meant for lodging the criminals, the prison administration has come a long way. Prisons are viewed as correctional institutions, and worldwide emphasis is on adopting modern approaches to prison administration to ensure the safety of the society from the wrongdoers, humane treatment of incarcerated individuals, reformation and rehabilitation of the prisoners, and most importantly, preventing recidivism. International instruments like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the treatment of prisoners, and the Beijing Rules for women inmates emphasize a more reformative approach towards the prison population. Humanizing prison circumstances, establishing basic standards for institutional care, reorienting prison personnel, restructuring current programs, and streamlining prison laws and regulations are the main focuses of contemporary approaches to imprisonment. Listeners, now we shall ponder upon the role of the judiciary in modernizing the prisons in India. The judiciary in India has time and again emphasized that people do not become non-persons merely due to their incarceration. In the case of Sunil Batra versus Delhi administration and others, the Supreme Court asked and affirmed, "Are prisoners persons?" Yes, of course. To answer in the negative is to convict the nation and the Constitution of dehumanizing and to repudiate the world legal order, which now recognizes the rights of prisoners in the International Covenant on Prisoners' Right, to which our country is a signatory. With regards to media interaction with the prisoners, the important cases are Prabha Dutt versus Union of India, Sheila Barse versus State of Maharashtra, State through Superintendent Central Jail versus Charulata Joshi and others. The cases of State of Gujarat and another versus Honorable High Court of Gujarat, Phul Kumari versus Office of the Superintendent, Central Jail Tihar, New Delhi, and another dealt with prisoners' wages. Important cases that helped pave the way for legal aid to prisoners are M.H. Hoskut versus State of Maharashtra, Husnara Khatun and another versus Home Secretary State of Bihar, Khatri and others versus State of Bihar, Sukh Das and another versus Union Territory of Arunachal Pradesh, and Muhammad Ajmal Muhammad Amir Kasab versus State of Maharashtra. In the case of Ramamurthy versus State of Karnataka, the Supreme Court emphasized the need for uniformity in laws relating to prisons and directed the formulation of a new All India Jail Manual. In the landmark judgment of Inhuman Conditions in 1382 prisons, the Supreme Court of India took a suo motu cognizance of the conditions in the Indian prisons and emphasized the modernization of prison infrastructure in the country and also the training of correctional staff. Government initiatives and projects towards the modernization of prisons after the independence of the country are very significant. The government has taken up different initiatives and projects with the objective of modernizing the prisons across the country. We shall start with the modernization of the prison scheme in 2002. This scheme for modernization of prisons was launched in 2002 with the primary objective of improving the conditions of the jails across the country for prisoners as well as prison personnel. The plan included building new prisons, renovating old ones, providing improved water and sanitation to prisoners, and providing housing for the prison staff. This program was put into place in 27 states over the course of 5 years with a cost-sharing arrangement between the center and the state governments in the ratio of 75:25. The state governments have built 119 new jails, 1,572 more barracks in the current prisons, and 8,568 staff apartments for the prison staff under the program, according to a report on the successful completion of this scheme. Next is the Modernization of Prisons Project 2022. The Ministry of Home Affairs has approved the modernization of the prison project with a financial outlay of Rs 950 crores from the financial year 2021-22 to the financial year 2025-26. This prison project is aimed at modernizing the prison equipment and strengthening the security infrastructure in the jails of the country. The major components of this project are as follows. For the purpose of strengthening the prison security, provision for video conferencing infrastructure, body-worn cameras, door frames, metal detectors, security poles, etc., baggage scanners, frisking, searching, jamming solutions, and correctional programs like counseling therapies and vocational training for the prisoners. The Ministry of Home Affairs would be responsible for the following: developing an overall strategy for achieving the objectives of the modernization of prisons across the country, providing financial assistance to states and union territories, establishing governance structures for monitoring and decision making, and overall monitoring and evaluating the project. Dear viewers, now we shall discuss the e-prison project. With the advancements in technology, the prison administration has also been working towards digitization of prisons, the usage of the internet and modern communication technology for the best advantage of the criminal justice administration, the prisoners and the society at large. The e-prison project has tried to introduce efficiency in prison management through digitization. It is important to note that the e-prison project helps to supplement the prisoner information management system, which provides a centralized approach for recording and managing personal information and generating different kinds of reports. The availability of the relevant details of the prisoner on an electronic platform is very useful to track the status of the prisoners, and it helps in the smooth functioning of the prison system. The management information system is used at the prisons for their day-to-day regular activities. The major modules of the present prisoner information management system are the visitor management system, hospital management system, legal aid management system, inventory management system, police intelligence system, court monitoring, kiosk information. Additionally, the National Prison Information Platform is a citizen-focused platform that provides statistics and information on the nation's many institutions. There is also Kara Bazaar in the e-jail project. Kara Bazaar is a website that allows prisoners to showcase and sell goods they have produced while incarcerated around different jails across the country. Dear viewers, now we shall discuss the Model Prison Manual 2016. This Model Prison Manual was a step towards modernizing prisons across the country and providing better facilities for the rehabilitation and reformation of the prisoners. It serves as a benchmark for all the states to emulate and seek guidance from. The key provisions made by the Model Prison Manual in 2016 were with regards to access to free legal aid, additional provisions for women prisoners, the right of the prisoners sentenced to death, modernization and prison computerization, a focus on aftercare, provisions for children of women prisoners, organizational uniformity, and increased focus on prison correctional staff and inspection of the prisons. Different commissions and committees on prison reforms have again helped in modernizing the prisons. Some of the prominent committees have been the All India Committee on Jail Reforms, popularly known as the Mullah Committee, the National Committee on Women Prisoners, popularly known as the Krishna Iyer Committee, and more recently, the Justice Amitva Roy Committee on Prison Reforms 2018. Dear viewers, now we have to understand as to what are the modern approaches to prisonization in India. Shift from the strict jail culture to the culture of correctional administration has been the focus of the modernization policies. Gone are the days when a prison was merely viewed as a place for the lodging and custody of the wrongdoers. Now, prison is a place for the purpose of reforming and correcting the criminal tendencies in a person. Training of prison personnel. As prison work is very demanding, the selection, recruitment and training of prison staff becomes very important. The staff has to be given technical training, learning about the use of security technology, surveillance equipment in the jail, and computer applications. The specialized staff is also trained to take up the work of teachers and instructors for the inmates. Training is imparted for working with special groups of prisoners like juvenile offenders, and training is imparted in the use of arms. The prison staff is also taught about prison manuals and rules, the basics of criminology, victimology and penology, the basics of psychology, sociology, social work, criminal laws and minor acts, human rights and policies in India, and basics of computer applications as well. The prison staff is also trained to meet with emergencies and crisis situations like jail escapes, riots, outbreaks, fire, hunger strikes, violent protests, agitations, overcrowding, natural calamities, hostage taking, terrorism, and situations in the case of a nuclear, biological, and chemical disaster. They are also trained to deal with medical emergencies like death, suicide, accidents, epidemics, food poisoning, etc. The second aspect is emphasis on reformation, education, vocational training, and skill development of the inmates. In modern times, there are various welfare programs and reformative measures conducted in the prison environment. The reformative measures include education for prisoners, library facilities, recreational activities, cultural activities, religious programs, prison canteens, and legal aid awareness. Vocational training and work programs include prison industries, payment of wages, prison stores, selling of finished products, and escorting prisoners to work. Along with this, the remission, temporary release, and premature release of prisoners are important components of the rehabilitation process. Character building programs have also been introduced across the jails in the country, like recreational facilities, celebration of national days and festivals, meditation camps and yoga classes, creative art therapy, involvement in self-management and cooperative living. Emphasis is also given to imparting religious and moral education and physical education activities among other facilities. Next important step is with regards to conjugal visits in the prisons. Conjugal rights refer to the rights created by marriage, the right of one spouse over the company of the other spouse. A question often arises: should the right of prisoners to the company of their spouses be recognized as a fundamental right? In the context of prisons, a conjugal visit refers to allowing a prisoner to spend some time with his or her spouse in privacy. In the Indian context, the concept of conjugal visits is still at an experimental stage. The state of Punjab is the first state in India to allow conjugal visits for the prisoners. It is felt that conjugal visits are a modern approach to correctional administration, as they help in the preservation of marital ties, boost the psychological health of the inmate, and also helps in sustaining meaningful relationships. They also help in reducing the sexual violence inside the prisons and the transmission of HIV/AIDS and hepatitis virus among the inmates. Nowadays, the NGOs are also playing a very active role in prisons. Social workers working for the cause of prisoners are also known as correctional social workers. They aim at reforming the criminal justice system and reducing the rates of recidivism. They also help in the readjustment of the wrongdoer back to the society after undergoing the sentence. Many prominent NGOs are also working for the rehabilitation and reintegration of the prison inmates. For example, the India Vision Foundation is a 29-year-old non-profit organization founded by Dr. Kiran Bedi, the First Lady Officer of the Indian Police Services. This NGO has been working tirelessly towards transforming the lives of incarcerated individuals, assisting them in their journey towards successful reintegration into the society. This foundation is presently operational in 113 prisons across 11 states and union territories of the country. Furthermore, the Tata Trust has established the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. The Trust initiatives involve training social workers who help people at all stages of incarceration so that needy and marginalized people can get access to justice. The social workers and NGOs collaborate to implement social work in the criminal justice system by helping in the vocational training of the inmates, starting the prison industry, availing of government schemes, and providing mental health interventions. In modern times, social workers are offering a variety of services in prisons, such as assessment of inmates, assisting them to develop coping skills, counseling and support, partnering with external service providers such as NGOs, families, and the community in the rehabilitation process, providing capacity building to other staff, and organizing community programs. The NGOs are also working towards the complete education of the children of inmates, no matter whether the mother is in the jail or released. NGOs have been providing various kinds of services like providing community sponsorship for the children of prisoners for their education, providing educational facilities in prison and outside, and facilitating admission to hostels for the children of the prison inmates who are above 6 years of age. Next important step is alternatives to imprisonment. The popular alternatives to imprisonment in India are probation, parole, community service, open prisons, and semi-open prisons. In the newly introduced Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, under Section 4, Clause F, community service has been introduced as a mode of punishment. This new provision will not only help in reducing the overcrowding in the prisons, but also pave the way for rehabilitation through community service and support. Next modern step is repatriation of prisoners. The Repatriation of Prisoners Act 2003 provides for the transfer of certain prisoners from India to a country or place outside India and the reception in India of certain prisoners from a country or place outside India. This act was enacted to help the foreign prisoners imprisoned in a jail in India or vice versa to be transferred to their native countries for serving the remaining part of their sentence near their families so as to help them in the process of their social rehabilitation. At present, we have operational agreements for the mutual transfer of prisoners with 35 countries, including the United Kingdom, Mauritius, Bulgaria, France, Egypt, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Bangladesh, to name a few. Next is the mental well-being of the inmates. In the present times, a lot of emphasis is placed on the mental well-being of the prisoners. The prison staff are also trained to mitigate the psychological problems faced by the prisoners. More recently, in June 2023, the National Human Rights Commission issued an advisory to mitigate deliberate self-harm and suicide attempts by the prisoners. Earlier, detailed guidelines on the prevention of suicide in prisons were issued by the National Human Rights Commission in 2014. In this regard, Section 103 of the Mental Health Care Act of 2017 relates to treatment facilities for prisoners with mental health issues. Rules 7, 10 and 11 of the Mental Health Care Rights of Persons with Mental Illness Rules 2018 relate to free legal aid, modalities of transfer, and minimum standards for persons with mental health issues in custodial institutions. Furthermore, under Section 103, subsection 6 of the Mental Health Care Act and Rule 11, the state and union territories are to identify one prison for setting up mental health establishments. The guidelines issued by the National Human Rights Commission in 2023 are filling up the vacancies and documenting the staff strength, training of prison staff, screening at the admission stage, supervising and monitoring of at-risk prisoners, observation of inmates with regards to mental health, suicide watch, training of prisoners in providing necessary first aid, particularly for handling attempted hanging, bleeding through self-inflicted cuts, or ingesting toxic substances. Collaborative framework for mitigation measures to tackle the issue of addiction among the prisoners, compliance with relevant statutory provisions, prison housekeeping to ensure that abrasive and corrosive chemicals, tools used for building and maintenance, ropes, glass and ladders are beyond the reach of the prisoners, installation of CCTV cameras, strengthening the visitor system, providing life skill based education and activities suitable for the spiritual and religious well-being of the prisoners, and vocational training for the prisoners have been recommended. As a step towards modernization, nowadays there is increasing use of technology in the prison management. In modern times, artificial intelligence is also being used for the security of prisons. Smuggling of narcotics or other offensive materials may take place in prisons, and hence artificial intelligence is being introduced in prisons across the country to prevent such smuggling. Prison security makes extensive use of technology like CCTV surveillance systems, control rooms set up at the prisons, metal detectors, X-ray baggage scanners, multiple Zohr door frame metal detectors, and laminated photo identification cards for the prisoners. A biometric identification system to store photographs and biometric fingerprints of all inmates is also being used. Solar energy is also being harnessed in prisons. Video conferencing is routinely used in various prisons across the country, not only for the purpose of court proceedings, but also for the purpose of interaction with the family members of the inmates. Special staff has been trained for the purpose of providing video conferencing facilities for the inmates. A visitor can send online requests to the jail authorities to fix a video conferencing session with their acquainted prisoners. This is called Jail Varta. This helps visitors talk to their relatives in prisons online by staying at home. Nowadays, e-purchase facilities have also been given to the prison inmates in India. Under this scheme, every prisoner is given a prisoner identification number. Using this number, the kin of an inmate can transfer money to his account. The prisoner have also been given smart cards, and they can use the same for spending money on telephone calls or in the canteen without keeping any hard currency with them. This cashless system also helps reduce corruption inside the prisons. Next is aftercare of the prisoners. It is important to note that aftercare service is immensely important as it tries to bridge the gap between the restrictive environment of a prison and satisfactory and responsible behavior and resettlement and readjustment to the society. Unfortunately, aftercare is not compulsory in India. In the end, I would like to conclude that India shares the universal viewpoint that a sentence of imprisonment is justifiable only if, on the one hand, it leads to the protection of society against crime, and on the other hand, it also helps in reforming the wrongdoer. The modern prison policy aims at achieving this twin objective while also aiming to mitigate the sufferings already inherent in the process of incarceration. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture. Thank you very much.